When a man and woman get married and they confess and profess vows to one another before God and before everyone who witnesses that, they become one. And it's a beautiful, miraculous, and marvelous thing. And in order to become one more practically and regularly and daily, year after year after year after year, it takes time and it takes some effort. But here's the thing. If one or both of those individuals don't put in the time and the effort it takes to become one, then guess what can happen? Unconsciously, they can begin to drift. They can begin to distance themselves from one another. And that's not why they got married. But sometimes what happens is that distance creates a disposition in the heart to where you stop investing, you stop giving, you stop forgiving. And sometimes that distance creates a hardness within, and it creates a separation between the both of you. Separation emotionally, to where there's just no emotional support, or you don't feel encouraged, there is no kindness that is shown, and you just feel kind of all alone even though you're married. That's not the way it has to be. Sometimes that separation can become so real between the two people, and they're not talking, living in the same place, almost like roommates, but not really living the married life, that separation not only is emotional, but it actually can become physical, to where you live in separate places. And that, you know what? That's really, really hard. And I tell you why that's so hard. That's so hard because before God and to one another, in His eyes, you still are one. A spiritual dynamic took place. You became one in covenant. And so to not to be together and experience that oneness, something is missing. There is this desire in both of you to be one, but you're not. And though you can't get past that wall, that barrier, that defense, whatever it is holding you back from becoming one, on the other side of that wall, your heart really wants to be one. You want to be well with each other. And there's no quick fix, perhaps, to that. But I want to just tell you that there is hope for you. There is hope. I have a verse that I want to read to you from Ephesians chapter 2, verse 14. It says this, "For He Himself is our peace, who has made both one and has broken down the middle wall of separation." No matter how thick that separation may seem between you and your spouse, Jesus is the master at breaking down any wall of separation, because He did it with you and me. If He can break down the wall of sin that separated us from God our Father and Him, then friend, He can do it between you and your spouse. So how does that even begin? Well, I would just say this. Think about when the distance actually started to occur. Go back to the Genesis. Think in your mind. When did this happen? When did this begin? What prompted this? You know, whenever you lose something, what do? You go in your mind and you start to backtrack. You start to retrace your steps and remember, where did I put that last? Where was I last? What did I do? What was I doing? And then you begin to remember perhaps where the item is that you lost. And if you start to think back and backtrack, you can kind of remember and trace back to where this thing really began. It could have been a misunderstanding over something very small. It could have been a time or two where it just was a time where nobody said, "I'm sorry," at the end of a disagreement. But trace back, think back, remember, and then you'll know where to begin to fix this. The second thing is you know what? Own what you are responsible for. Sometimes separation happens because perhaps one of us did something or has done something repeatedly, or one of us hasn't done something and hasn't done something that we could or should do repeatedly. And we need to own that. In most cases, it's not always all on one individual. When you're married, it's a partnership, it's a team. You're heirs together of the grace of life. And so you have to be sober enough in mind and in thought to say, hey, let me take a look at myself and see maybe what I contributed, either by omission, what I didn't do, commission, what I did do. And if you can own that, then all you need to do then is just repent. Repent to God, repent to your spouse, admit that, hey, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, I realize that now. And then you need to begin to invest. You know, anything that is going to grow and going to become healthy, there has to be an intentional effort of investment. And in the beginning, when you start to invest, because maybe you haven't done it in a while because of separation and those feelings and emotions of separation, maybe even the physical separation of locality, it may seem weird and a little bit awkward, but I want to encourage you to push through the awkwardness and keep on investing. Invest towards the goal of what you want. What's the goal? The goal is the two shall become one. The goal is unity. The goal is oneness. The goal is togetherness. The goal is closeness. So towards that, and don't let what the current feeling or situation or thought is to stop you from investing towards the goal. Think with me for a moment. Whenever you do investing from a financial standpoint, there are different types. There's low risk, medium risk, high risk. Marriage is not a high risk investment. It's not a medium risk investment. It is a low risk, long-term investment. In other words, you have to keep on investing over and over again for a long period of time, and then you're going to begin to yield the results of your investment. So I want to encourage you, invest in your relationship, and that separation will be removed, and you'll experience oneness.